Hard to believe we're already talking about elections. It seems like we never stop. But joining us to talk about it, Chuck Coughlin, as always. Thanks for doing this.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry we're having to do this again.
A 5-day break from elections.
Exactly.
While we're on that topic, let's talk about some of the things that are happening in Arizona.
Yeah.
Let's start with the governor's race. Karen Taylor Robeson already running television ads. But Andy Biggs, they seem to be the two in the race. There have been some others that may jump in. We got a lot of time. But what do you make of this race?
Well, I think Karen has a problem now because Biggs has more of a lock on that MAGA base, on the Freedom Caucus base. Turning Point endorsed her the other day. That's a very big advocacy organization, particularly in Arizona on a grassroots
One of
basis.
the questions was possibly Charlie Kirk jumping into the race, but Charlie's actually hosting the fundraiser for Biggs.
Yes.
What does that young, tech-savvy base do for him?
Well, it makes a problem for Karen, most importantly, because what is Karen's lane if she's not the Trump-endorsed candidate? So, she has to make a decision politically. Do I just go attack Andy Biggs and make him an unattractive? We're both Trump-endorsed, but do I go after him and attack him and drag him down? Or what other narrative do I add to my Trump credential to say that I'm a better candidate, and does that work with a MAGA base? That's a problem. Globally, the problem, again, gets back to why Hobbs got elected last time, right? Did Hobbs got elected last time because of this very intense, very ugly Republican primary, and this is a history in the state of doing this. We've done this many times.
Well, when Ducey won his first term, there were 9 candidates in the primary.
Right. Well, when Napolitano got elected Attorney General the first time, I was running one of the Attorney General races that detonated that and created a path for her. So does that create a path for Hobbs, an easier path? I think Hobbs, as people think, that's true, that you create a more partisan, divided electorate with a Trump-endorsed MAGA candidate. Trump's got problems. We'll talk about those right now in terms of managing the economy and people's expectations of the administration, dampening. And so, you're 2 years in 26. What does that look like? And it creates potentially a better opportunity for her. But she's got problems too.
But do either one of those candidates, if there is a contentious, expensive primary, do either one of them have a chance to beat Hobbs if she's not primaried and she's just spending that $3 million pumping up what she's done?
No doubt. I mean, Trump won the state last time, so we are a swing state, and we've composed of voters in the center that can go both ways. We probably have a bigger Republican base than a Democratic base. You've seen the voter registration numbers. Democrats are diving for the tank. Republicans continue to grow. Independents grow faster. So who narrates to that part of the electorate that you need in a statewide election, which is unaffiliated voters and some soft Democrats and some soft Republicans to go put a majority coalition together?
So then, very quickly, what do you make of the superintendent's race with Kimberly Yee now jumping in to challenge a fellow Republican? She's already won a statewide office as treasurer. Yeah. But what do you make of this race?
Well, it's more Republican on Republican stuff. I mean, to criticize the superintendent for being weak on ESA oversight seems a little tone deaf to me, because I think most of us are aware that the program needs further oversight. 8,000, cellos and.
But they're saying it's the legislature that should be doing this and not the superintendent.
Right. Well, but the legislature needs a bill signed by the governor. There needs to be some compromise with the governor, so the superintendent's trying to do the job. And so what do? And so I don't know that Kimberly Yee's been a fantastic treasurer. She comes to the race with a very credible background. She was the top vote getter in the last election cycle out of all candidates. And so she comes with it credible. But break that down to the narrative then. Are you running a race to say ESAs don't need more oversight? That's not palatable. I don't think that again creates an opportunity on the Democratic side to create and the Democrats have, as you just said, probably 7 or, they have a number of candidates running, deciding what they believe in. To me, the issue there is, I think ESAs are part of the firmament. It is what it is right now. Everybody's going to accept that. The question now becomes, what's the problem with public education? To me, the problem with public education is Title I schools. Title I schools have the underperforming kids, and we're not paying them more money to educate those kids. Everybody who I talk to, even in the charter school movement, says in order to educate these kids, you have to pay more money for those kids. We got a poverty rate a couple years ago, but they've cut that.
All right, I got to catch my breath.
Yeah.
We got more to talk about. We'll be back here in a moment. All right, we're back with Chuck Coughlin talking about the political climate. Let's talk about the national front, what's going on. I would say you're the strategist. If there's one place the Trump administration is winning, it's on the border. It is with their border security measures. So I would say that the fight against them on a lot of this seems futile right now, but where it seems like there's a lot of inroads would be the on-again, off-again uncertainty with tariffs. Is that the truth? And if that is the truth, why isn't the opposition more focused on that? And we're still seeing representatives from Arizona going to El Salvador and Eloy. Why are they not more focused on the economy?
Two things. One, I think he is fumbling on the immigration side. That started under Biden, the last 2 months or so of the Biden administration. That was crashing, and that had happened. But now what he's doing is this habeas corpus stuff. I mean, he's arresting Americans and people who have some level of right to be here and deporting them. I don't think that's a majority position. I agree with his position of deporting criminals. It was in the New York Times today. There's an Asian woman in Missouri, and they're like, but she's a mom, and you're like,
but isn't public perception, and that's what we're dealing with, is what the public sees.
Yeah.
That the Supreme Court agreed with him on the parole. And so it looks like he's getting another win there. What you're saying, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with, but the perception is 90 to 95% reduction of illegal crossings since he's been in office.
Yeah.
So shouldn't the fight, if you're in opposition to Donald Trump, shouldn't the fight be more about the tariffs and the uncertainty?
Yes, but part of the economy is immigration too, Mike. We don't have enough people in this country to fill our jobs. So that you have to have a productive immigration system in order to have a productive economy. Back to your tariff.
But I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
But if the shift, if there's wisdom in a shift that comes that says now we've secured the border, let's get a system of a guest worker program or an easier path. If they do
You're
that.
sounding like Ruben Gallego.
Well, I've been advocating this forever, and
Well,
I
now
told
that's
Gallego.
what he's saying.
But same thing. I
Right.
agreed with Gallego in that
Trump
we need
would
to
be
have
smart to follow that lead.
Follow that lead.
Right.
Now would be the time to follow it up.
Right.
But now the economy. What do you make of this?
Oh my God, we're in a tsunami. We're hurricane season again. It goes this way, it goes this way. I mean, he just has to stop. I mean, and there are ways to implement his tariff policy. That many of them are legal and beyond reproach. There are others, which he's been doing, which is just throwing a bomb into the arena. 50% tariffs on European goods, and the markets blow up, the economy crashes, and then 2 days later he's like, "Oh, we're not going to do that."
But then the market came back, and the EU came and said, "We're gonna come to the table." So it seems like it looks
The
like he
market
got what he
comes
wanted
back,
to get.
But how do you plan? How does a business person who's investing billions of dollars plan with that kind of uncertainty? It's not hurting us right now. It's hurting us down the road.
But see, they would argue, and I tend to agree with them in saying that down the road, what this is going to do is the $12 trillion in investment in America. That down the road, that this chaos or tumult right now is going to pay off long term.
If it does that way, there's other competitors in this marketplace. China's a competitor in this marketplace.
Right.
The European Union is a competitor in this marketplace. Japan is a competitor in this marketplace. What happens with the dollar? Is the dollar going to maintain its international status as the currency that we operate off of? There's a lot of competing forces out there now because of all of this noise that he's doing.
The criticism I've had, the overwhelming criticism I've had on this issue has been the lack of explanation from the White House. The Treasury Secretary has done a much better job of explaining the goals and what they believe is going to happen.
Yep.
Should the president at least, even if you don't agree with him, sit down with the American people and say, this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it? Would that be a better option?
If you get him to do that.
But I'm asking, if you were that person in the room.
I'd be banging on him to do that and to be disciplined about his messaging and what he's doing. But he doesn't seem capable of doing that. I mean, this is back to the first term problem of, emotional illiteracy about what's happening in the world and not being able to be disciplined about your message.
Which is, I think, what happened and why he lost to Joe Biden.
Yeah, I see the same things are happening now.
But it's weird because I like the direction a lot of this is going, but the messaging seems to be frustrating.
I don't think any of us mind a smaller federal government. I don't think anybody minds the idea that the American economy should have a price to pay for admission into the American economy, that we should extract equal trade agreements. I don't think anybody has it. How do you do that? With causing the least amount of kerfuffle within the larger economy.
I got to tell you, I miss these conversations. So I know it's early in the process, but I'm glad we're having them. He's Chuck Coughlin. We'll be back. Coming up, see the new way authorities are sniffing out.